It was all happening as predicted. Voss hoped. So where in the blazes are they? She wished Kellag was here, but she didn't trust anyone else to be in charge of the second part of the plan. Likely he was already in position, only waiting to hear that Voss had accomplished her part of the scheme. Voss maintained her vigil at the ship's rail, outwardly calm, but the nerves kicking up a storm in her gut. Timing was vital. If the remainder of Voss's fleet, hiding just over the horizon, showed themselves too soon, then the Union flotilla would guess they were being lured into a trap. If the pirate had betrayed her, the hunters would rapidly become the hunted, and then Voss would be forced to— There! The prow of the first pirate ship nosed into view, followed soon by the other two. The drum beats of the galleys behind her echoed across the bay. The oarsmen would need to row even before the enemy ships came into the bay to get up enough speed. Voss's heartbeat sped up to match it. She suddenly wished the pirates had fled and the plan had failed. Nope. Dumo, help us. There's going to be a battle. From her vantage aboard Winter Witch, she was relatively safe. The flagship, she'd been told, from where the Admiral can safely direct the battle. But I'm no Admiral, and I'm not directing a thing. Her part in the battle, all the planning, all the strategy, the talk of tactics she only partly understood, had been finished for days. It was in the hands of the ship captains now. The trio of pirate ships turned sharply and entered the bay, to then split, two ships veering port, the other starboard. They were making room for the speeding galleys, the drumbeats increasing every second. The pirate frigates passed the galleys, heading in the opposite direction, full speed toward the mouth of the bay. The Union ships appeared a few moments later, turning into the bay at best speed. They saw what was happening and panicked, sails going slack as they tried to turn, but the high rock cliffs took their wind. The rest of the fleet was coming fast behind the Union ships. They must have topped the horizon, and Voss was only just noticing. The Union ships had apparently seen it too. 3 of the enemy vessels struck their colours immediately. 2 of the man-o'-wars attempted a clumsy about-face to leave the fray at once, but they were too close to each other for proper manoeuvring. The final 3 enemy ships plunged headlong into the bay, clearly trying to find room to make a turn. But the galleys closed too quickly, and the space between the 2 forces shrank rapidly. 5 galleys ploughed into the leading pair of Union ships, the iron-tipped rams striking the man-o'-wars amidships with an ear-splitting crack of timbers that made Voss flinch. Screaming men were flung from the rigging as both Union ships lurched badly, only being hung up on the rams keeping them afloat. Mercenary sailors surged forward, swarming each galley's prow with long poles to push off from the wounded vessels. The vessels separated, the racket of metal scraping on wood. Water poured into the 2 Union ships. The dithering vessels at the mouth of the bay joined their brethren in striking their colours. The final Union ship made a deft manoeuvre, the iron fist of a battering ram missing its stern by a dozen feet. "It's turning too wide." The voice at her shoulder made Voss jump. She hadn't noticed that the dark-skinned Vorondak Islander had come up to stand next to her. Denny, Winter Witch's skipper, was a short, tight-muscled woman with an explosion of brown braids erupting from her head. "She'll never make the mouth of the bay," Denny said. "Not if she expects to—" Denny's eyes widened, and she took off like a bolt loosed from a crossbow, bare feet slapping against the quarterdeck as she shouted orders. Sailors in the rigging sprang into action, pulling ropes and letting out sail. Denny barked another order, and the helmsman spun the ship's wheel. The Winter Witch began a sluggish, lumbering turn, the prow inching to one side. It wasn't going to be enough. The Union ship was trying to make a sweeping turn, back toward the mouth of the bay, passing in front of the Winter Witch, but it obviously wasn't going to make the turn. A collision was imminent. The captain of the enemy ship must have sensed the same thing. He abandoned the turn and straightened his vessel, heading right for the Winter Witch to increase the impact. Voss's heart rate ticked up another notch. "I'm too old for this." Denny screamed orders for all she was worth. It didn't matter. The Winter Witch had been caught off guard and had begun its manoeuvre too late. At top speed, a galley flew in from the side like a shark spearing through the water. The oarsmen must have been straining every muscle.